Before I start, I'm going to share with you an author that is one of my favorite authors of all time. Her name is Florence Scovel Shinn, and Florence is part of my crew, part of my community of dead people that I converse with and hang out with on the reg. So before I get started, I'm going to call in my crew. I'm going to invite you to do the same. You know that I like to do this, so you're welcome to do this with me, or you can just sit here and watch me do it. I don't care. Do what you want. Because I'm going to do what I want. So the very first thing I like to do is I like to high five my guardian angel, and my guardian angel is right there. So I go high five to my guardian angel, and I high five to my spirit guides, and my spirit guides, and my spirit guides. And then I'm going to call in any and all beings that would like to be here. And I want to specifically invite Florence Scovel Shinn and all of the New Thought authors and teachers that have been schooling me for years from this point and from this place. Whew, come on in. Anybody you want to invite them in. Because the room's filling up. So let's talk about Florence for a minute. Her name is Florence Scovel Shinn. I never know if I'm going the right way with this. Let me see. Dang it. Come on. It's got to go one way or the other, right? I know. Hit the slide for me, will you? Thanks. Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. Florence Scovel Shinn is a New Thought author and speaker and what I call the first life coach. So if you don't know this about me, I'm a life coach, and it is my absolute joy to have the job where I literally work with people to create whatever they want to create in their lives. And one of the first things we have to do sometimes is clear out the mess they have been creating, or get them really clear about what they want to create, and sometimes there's stuff to clear out. But I assert that Florence Scovel Shinn and some of the authors from the very beginning of the New Thought movement were the first life coaches. Because people would come to them, and they would come to them for a cure, right, or a treatment. But that cure or a treatment ended up being what they called speaking the word, which they would, for that person, speak for the highest good of all, this is going to happen to you. And so, for example, one of the examples Florence gives in her book is that a woman came to her, that she was in love with this man. His name was A.B. And this woman came to Florence and she said, Florence, I want to marry this man. I really want to be married to this man. And Florence, being all-knowing, right, says, well, I am not going to speak the word that you marry this man. But what I am going to do is I will speak the word that for your highest and best good, the right and perfect partner will be coming available to you very soon. Well, within a couple of weeks, she got a phone call from this woman. This woman is telling her, A.B. has turned out to be kind of a dud. I don't really like him that much. Right? And then a couple of weeks later, the woman comes back, or a couple months later, the woman comes back and says, I've met this other fella. And he thinks I'm the cat's meow. And he has been speaking all these things. So obviously, Florence says, well, A.B. wasn't the right and perfect guy, right? The right and perfect guy was the one that got called up when we called in the right and perfect person. And so Florence would do these things where she would speak the word. And back in the day, and I like to do this for my clients, and I say to them out loud, I am speaking the word that this is happening, right? When a client wants something and something's going on, I just did it the other day. I spoke the word for one of my clients that she has a job on the way where she gets to make a difference, make great money, and enjoy what she's doing. Right? I spoke the word. I'm 100% clear that that is on the way for that client. And when I'm speaking the word and I feel like in that vibe, I'm 100% clear that that is happening. And I can tell you that I have spoken the word for people, and man, it's amazing when they come back to me and be like, Jay, you're never going to believe what happened. And I always say, I do believe it because I buy this stuff, right? So Florence tells us that the game of life, that many people think life is a struggle or a battle. And what she recommends and what she wants us to do is think of life as a game. And that if we can take the concept of life as a game, have the perspective of a game, number one, it becomes way more fun. But also, there's rules to the game, right? And if we just know what the rules are and know what the laws are, then life could be a lot less struggle. It'd be a lot easier. One of the things that, give me a slide. Slide. Okay. So one of the things that Florence talks about is that, and we know this in New Thought. I'm just going to put this down and hopefully we'll move through the slides. So one of the things that she talks about is that we always practice in New Thought is that thoughts held in mind come after their time, right? And basically what she does is she quotes the Bible saying, whatever you sow, what you sow, you reap. What you reap, you sow, right? So what you think about, you bring about. But she makes very specific to say, if you don't want to be lied to, stop lying. You don't want to be cheated on, stop cheating. You want to, like whatever you reap, you sow. And we're so unconscious sometimes that we won't even get, right, for ourselves as humans, that this thing is happening to us. I've been in a situation where somebody's been lying to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, am I lying? What am I lying about? And I got to look sometimes to go, wait a minute, this is coming up in my life, must be happening over here. So one of the things that she encourages us to do is to be so diligent about our mind, so diligent about the things that we imagine, because the things that we hold in our mind create after their kind. And so if we imagine things that then manifest into our future, it's not just the good things, but also the horrible images that you spitter around with. You got to really be conscious of what you're doing because you are creating a reality that you're living into. And you could be, we do this, right? People call it worry. And Florence says the biggest sins that you can commit are worry and fear. Worry and fear. Because sin in the world of New Thought is missing the mark. And when you're worrying and fearing, you are missing the mark of knowing that you are creating your own reality, right? That you are living your imagination into a future that you don't want. Give me a slide. Give me a slide. There we go. So Florence talks about the fact that there are 3 departments of the mind. First of all, for those of you who are, if you're not, haven't been doing New Thought or haven't been doing metaphysics for a while, please know that what Florence is talking about, all New Thought speakers are talking about, right? Everybody who studies New Thought or metaphysics is saying the same things that Florence is saying. She's just really this is how it is. And I love that about her. So there's 3 departments of the mind. The first is the subconscious. Slide. And the subconscious is essentially the power that we have within us. And remember, this is 1925. So they didn't have quantum theory and quantum physics to understand, which is I'm always blown away that in 1925, this is where they're coming from. But they understand that the subconscious, right, is this power within. She calls it steam or electricity, which I love that, right? Steam, it's this power that they have in 1925. Right? Electricity, it's this power that can be unwielding unless we harness it, right? Today, I would like to think of it as AI or your algorithm, right? If you do not manage your algorithm, how many of you know that all you got to do is talk about shoes that you want to buy, and the next thing you know, you will see them on your Facebook feed? Do you know this? Yeah. Right. So you have to manage your algorithm, right? If I don't manage my algorithm, the next thing I know, I've got all this stuff in my algorithm that I don't want. So I have to be conscious of managing my algorithm. But the subconscious is just, it gets completely influenced. It's just a force, right? Your subconscious is a force. And it takes in, right? You have to manage it because it's just this force, the algorithm. I want you to think of your subconscious as your algorithm. Your AI algorithm you need to manage. Slide. Your conscious mind is your mortal mind. It's your mortal or carnal mind that sees life as it appears to be. So I want to be clear to talk about how it appears to be, because this is where we can get into a little bit of spiritual bypass, right? If someone is having an incredibly difficult time, right, the last thing I'm going to go say to them is, that's all an illusion. And if you would just get your mind right, right, you would be doing just fine. But I tell you what, the conscious mind sees life as it appears. But we want to really lean on that appears because those of us who are metaphysicians know that this appearing world is just through my own vision. So something could happen right here in the middle of the room and all 50 of us could see something different. Because we interpret it through we would see this and we would see it how it appears to us. Each one of us. But the conscious mind is just that. It's like, this is what's going on. So if the conscious mind were to look around our world right now, what would the conscious mind come up with? Depending on where it looked, it would come up with, we are in a really bad place, right? If your conscious mind looked at the level of destruction that we have, the many wars that we have going on right now, people hungry in our own country, like the divisiveness that's happening right now. If your conscious mind is focusing on that, that's the truth, right? That's what it sees, that's what's happening. If your conscious mind is focusing on the flowers and how pretty they are right now and all the different colors of spring and every different color of green that you could possibly imagine is happening out there, if that's where your conscious mind is, that's where you are. So again, we have to really manage, right, what our conscious mind is looking at, but we note that the conscious mind just takes in like whatever it sees. Like it just, that's what I see, that's what it is, right? Slide. Then we have the superconscious. The superconscious mind is the God mind, right? It holds within us the perfect picture of each one of us' own, what she would call destiny, or whatever it is that is your perfect pattern of life is already within us as divine mind. And divine mind is there all the time, and our subconscious and our conscious mind can block it. Right? We can't always be conscious of that. We can get blocked by the other two. Does that make sense? Are you with me? Slide. Okay, so when we're speaking the words, right, we have to understand is that when our thoughts and our words that come out of our being, right, influence our conscious mind and seep down into our subconscious mind, so they give us the pictures that we're living into. They give us that movie that we're moving into all the time. And so this quote is one that she leans on very heavily. It's, by your words ye are justified, and by your words ye are condemned. So this is so important to get, because if in your words and your thoughts, things are always working out for you, you got good stuff coming to you all the time, you know that things are going to work out even if they're hard, if that is what you're speaking and thinking, then that is how your life goes. If by your words you are condemned, that's your words are justified, right? If by your words you are condemned, things suck in my life, everybody's mean to me, I never have enough money, I can't do this, blah, 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 right? Then that is the experience that you are living into, correct? So, this is all fantastic, and if it was this simple, wouldn't it be easy? We'd just be like, I could just focus over there and everything's good, right? Now here's something that Florence didn't really they didn't understand in 1925 that we know about today, and that's your nervous system. Our nervous system as human beings that goes from our, that vagus nerve that runs all the way, and all this nervous system and how it runs us. What we know now, and I've been reading a book recently by a woman by the name of Robin Goebel, and I'm not even through the book yet, so I'm letting you know that right now. I'm only telling you part of what I know. But I've been studying neuroscience for quite a while because I think it's so important to understand that we have this brain that can take us offline in a second. And the reason it can take us offline is because, again, the subconscious takes in the conscious mind, but the subconscious has been taking in your conscious mind since you were a baby. So if you've had trauma in your life or you have something happen, it runs down and stays in that conscious mind, and I assert stays within your body also. And so part of what we have to really understand to manage is how the nervous system works and where our nervous system is at all times. So what I love about Robin Goebel is she's given me new language about the nervous system, and she talks about three different ways that the nervous system goes. It's either an owl brain, and owl brain is when we're in our executive function place, right? This is your right and left prefrontal cortex, Where in our owl brain, we have executive functioning happening. We can focus, we can reason, we can think well, we're all good. Or, so we're in our owl brain. The other two places our brain can go is what she would call possum brain and or watchdog brain. So what she asserts is that, and I love this, that all people are either in connection mode or protection mode. Connection mode or protection mode. And one of the things she says that I love is that connection mode has one switch. You switch on, if you're in connection mode, your switch is on and you're in love, you're in connection, you're in that place. I have walked into this place in connection mode and you guys are like a magnet to me. People are like, Jay, blah, blah, blah. I've also walked into this place in protection mode. And for me, my protection mode is watchdog brain. I very rarely go to possum brain, where possum brain would be disassociating, going numb, all these things, right? I'm more fight. We used to call it fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This is what I'm talking about. I'm a fighter. So the minute that I think I'm afraid, one of the first things I do is jump up and fight. And to the degree that I will embarrass myself in public, if I'm not kidding, I have embarrassed myself in public, even recently, by being in my watchdog brain. So my whole life being in watchdog brain, my watchdog brain has really I've done some stuff. Like I've hurt some people because I'm jumping up ready to fight. And it's been such a gift, right, to get this book to understand that we have to have compassion for all of it. Now, you know that I'm constantly practicing self-compassion and believe that compassion for ourselves is part of my spiritual practice and what I want you to practice too. What I've really started to have a new revelation for around myself is that all these modes of my watchdog brain are all about keeping me safe. Now, I've known this forever, and I've talked about this, how we're wired to keep ourselves safe. But I have a whole new level of understanding of that, and I'm still working through it. But what I get for myself is that whenever I'm in my limbic system, something scared me, right, and I jump up to fight, I'm in my subconscious mind is like kicked up something that I've taken in my conscious mind as something to be afraid of. So something in my conscious mind comes up and I'm afraid, and then therefore my subconscious kicks in and I'm like, oh, I'm going to kick your ass, right? Because that's who I am. And so it takes something for me to be able to let that go, right? Get that out of here. Two things have to happen for me. My cortisol has to calm down and my nervous system has to slow down. And so while the New Thought authors did not have this language of our nervous system and be able to manage our nervous system, they did know that there are times when it gets so dark that it is almost impossible to what they call cast the burden. So first of all, I do know that I only have 20 minutes with you, and I'm committed to only taking 20 minutes. I wish I could download this whole book to you over and over again. But I'm hitting the highlights because I got 20 minutes. But I feel like casting the burden in this book, Florence talks about casting the burden on to your higher consciousness, to your superconscious brain, the God brain, right? And that she asserts that being able to cast the burden onto the Christ-like brain, that Christ-like brain slide is the fourth dimensional brain, right? It's like the part of us, we are three-dimensional beings, and she asserts there's this fourth dimension. The fourth dimension, oh crap, sorry about that. I'll talk about that in a second. The Christ within is your fourth dimensional self. So she talks about Jesus as being divine in principle and divine in person, but that Jesus represents this fourth dimension that we can get into. And that, you all know what that feels like when you're in that dimension you're in the flow is what we would call it, right? Where you're just like, nothing can hurt me, I'm getting green lights all the way, right? It's just like, I'm in the flow, I'm in that fourth dimension. And we want to be able to cast the burden of whatever's going on with us to that fourth dimension. And sometimes that is not easy. Sometimes we're like all up in it and we don't know what to do with ourselves. So one of the ways that we click, I hope, slide. There we go. One of the ways that we cast the burden here in unity is, she could say you say, I cast the burden of my job onto my Christ within, and I go free, happy, harmonious, right? And we just cast the burden. And wouldn't that be awesome if that's all we have to do is say the words, I cast the burden. And sometimes it works. Sometimes if you're really into it and you really know how to cast the burden, you can do it. And I can sometimes have to set my watch and cast the burden every hour because my brain will go back, right? But we have this tool in unity that I find is one of the most powerful tools that exists here, and that is silent unity. Slide. So for me, when I can't cast the burden, right, when I'm so caught up in my nervous system that I can't find the words. And we have to be able to find words that we believe. You know how whenever you're feeling like crap and somebody comes up to you and says, things are always working out for you, right? People want to punch me because I'll say that sometimes, right? You want to punch them in the throat. You're like, fuck off, right? Things aren't always fucking working out for me. God, shut up, right? So, it just feels like invalidating, right? And I could be guilty of that because I'm like, ooh, let's make sure we pay attention to our words. I could be guilty of that spiritual bypass. But what I know sometimes it's so intense that I can't do it myself. And I certainly can't do it like just cast the burden. So we call silent unity. I call silent unity. If you're not familiar with silent unity, we have had somebody up at Unity Village praying unceasingly since 1898. Praying unceasingly, isn't that amazing? And so you can call 1-800-NOW-PRAY. Is that right? Yes. 1-800-NOW-PRAY. You'll get somebody on the phone. You'll tell them what's going on with you, and trust me, I have picked up the phone and I'll be like, right? They can't even hear what I'm, right? And because I can't find the words, and they will dial in a prayer for you that is an affirmative prayer. And what they're doing is they're speaking the word for you, right? This is what I'm talking about when Florence is speaking the word for people. They will speak the word that you cannot find for yourself. And they will hold that and they will give you, when they give me anyway, when I call and I'm like, right, they give me words that then I go, oh. And now I have words, right? Now I can say something about this that actually feels good. Feels like it's what I want. Feels like I'm moving in the right direction rather than, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm so freaked out, right? So one of the most powerful pieces of this book, I think, is the world around and casting the burden. Now what I missed, the slide about intuition I want to go back to because I missed this and I want to make sure to say it. That superconscious that holds this pattern of your divine guidance, of your what she would call your destiny. She says every person has their right and perfect path, and that the superconscious, the God mind, holds that within us. She asserts, and this is those of you who know that I study Suzanne Geisman and that I like to talk to dead people. She asserts that when we are ready all the time, and it doesn't matter if you're gnashing your teeth or whatever, when it's time, when you're ready, you will have an intuition. You will have a hunch. You'll have a nudge. And the slide that I missed up there is intuition, meaning tuition within, like knowledge from within. And that you'll have a hunch or a tug and never, ever, ever not follow a hunch, right? She says that if you get a nudge and you don't follow it, then you're moving backwards, right? But if you get a hunch, even if it sounds silly. So she tells a story about how she got this hunch one time to walk into a store. She was like, there's nothing I want in this store. I don't know why I'm going to this store, but I have a hunch to go into the store. So I go into the store, she goes into the store, and on her way out of the store, she sees somebody she hasn't seen in a long time. You all have this happen to you all the time, right? You know this. You got a hunch, you got a nudge to like go to this thing or go do this thing, or I feel like I should go home right now, or whatever it is, right? And if you follow those are going to be guidance and steps. And those hunches, those guidances will give you visions to then ponder on, to then move toward. And I love that. And she says, don't visualize, don't sit and visualize, but don't ever miss that intuition, that hunch that's guiding you toward that path. Look at you. Got my intuition's light up there. Okay, now let's move forward back to where we were. Okay, there we go. So the object of the game, right, is that all power is given human. And she says man. When you read this book, you got to really get that it was written in 1925 because everything is man this and man that and man this and man that. So I changed the words to human. So all power is given humans through right thinking, right? Because there's wrong thinking, which is that you're bad and you're wrong and you're all that stuff, right? That's wrong thinking. It's error thinking. We know that unity is like, we're all about, Charles Fillmore says that's an error. If you're thinking something that is, you're bad, wrong, or anything like that, that's error thinking. So all power is given humans through right thinking to bring their heaven, right, the heaven that is designed for you, right, upon this earth. And it is the goal. That's the goal of the game of life, right? Our goal to come here is to manifest whatever our heaven is supposed to be. And through right thinking, we manifest that. Slide. The rules of the game are fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. So fearless faith is that knowing that even if I'm down right now, I know there's going to come a day. I know there's going to come a moment when I can get released from this thing and cast the burden and follow my intuition towards a higher purpose, towards a knowing that I am well and loved and whole. That is fearless faith. When I'm operating out of fear, that's when my limbic system is in charge. Right? My whole nervous system, when I'm operating out of fear, my nervous system is in charge. So I'm going to operate out of fearless faith, and no matter what, I'm going to find the right answer. Non-resistance, I could talk about this all day. But when we are coming at things from a resisting place, we've talked about this 100 times, what we resist persists, right? So if we're pushing against something, it is going to come at us stronger. So we want to not resist. We want to make sure that we're able to let go of all resistance as the game. And if you feel resistance, you can feel it in your body. If you're tuning into your body enough, you can feel about any subject that you talk about. If it starts to have your voice get tight, or you start to get pissed, or you start to go into a possum-like mode, whatever it is, if your brain starts to go to possum or watchdog, when you bring up a subject, you're resisting. Just be clear, that is resistance. So we want to get to a place where whatever comes up, we're able to just stay in our nervous system well, stay in love. Love is the power of all of it. And when we can stay in love, when we're creating love, it also gives us access to our full self-expression. So the whole idea of the game of life is to be able to express ourselves fully to create what they would call our heaven right here on earth. And in order to do that, the biggest focus we always want to get back to is love. And I just called it connection before. So I want to remind it, because for me it's a powerful tool to notice. I'm either in connection or I'm in protection. And if I'm in connection mode, then I'm all about loving you no matter where you are. I mean, it's easy for me. I'm in connection mode, you can show up however you are, and I'm good. But if I'm in protection mode, something you might say might send me off down the heezy, right? So I have to really be conscious for myself to heal whatever's in the subconscious that keeps me in protection mode, to get that out, heal it, to give it over, cast the burden to my higher conscious, and stay in connection mode and or love mode, because that is always going to guide me to this heaven on earth that is mine by divine right. And by yours, by divine right. I think that's all I got today. Thanks for being here.